This is Things Police See, First-Hand Accounts, with your host, Steve Gould.
Welcome to the podcast that interviews active and retired police officers about their most intense, bizarre, and sometimes humorous moments on the job. It is I, Old Ginger Face, here with you as always. Thank you for being here, guys. Thank you for joining me on this little journey I've had going on the last 7 or 8 years. A lot of really, really great interviews have been amassed behind this episode. No credit to me. All credit goes to the men and women of law enforcement that come on here and bear it all. They tell you their stories as they live them, no matter how intense, no matter how graphic. And the whole point is so you get a better appreciation for what it is that these men and women do for us when they're out there being coppers. Also, thank you to all the Sergeant Steve watchers who have come over and decided to check out the podcast. It's a great companion to Sergeant Steve. You know, you can't like watch YouTube when you're driving your car, or you're at the gym, or doing whatever. So why not have Things Police See in your ear? That way you can just have me going just 24 hours of your life. I can just be in your ear telling you things. So that would be preferable. And if you love the show and you really want to, you watch a bunch of the free content and you really appreciate it and you want to support, you can do that at through the link in the show notes for the Patreon. If you pick Sergeant or above donation level, you will get a shout out on the show. All right, folks, excited for this one. Let's see what we got here. This guy has been, believe it or not, in law enforcement for 51 years of duty, from the Everglades to Ground Zero. Those are with, he's going to kill me because I went over these names with him, but they're Indian names, so I'm gonna screw them up. Chenango County Sheriffs and Miccosukee Police Department Sheriff for 5 4-year terms, which is crazy. And also he sat as a commissioner on the New York State Commission of Corrections. He also has a popular book out, When Crisis Meets Courage. A link to that will be in the show notes, of course. Without further ado, let me bring on the great Thomas Loughren. Sir.
Glad to be here.
I didn't even ask about your last name. Loughren, is that the right way?
It's pronounced Loughren. I'm Irish.
Loughren, got it. I should know better. I look like a leprechaun myself. It's great to have you. You've had a crazy, crazy career. 51 years is a real long time. Permanent. You're like retired now? Or are you like on one of these committees? Or are you like, deputized somewhere? What's going on?
No, I'm actually retired, but I'm still hooked to the system. I was in it so long, but I'm officially retired. That's why good. I wrote the book. That's why I wrote the book, because I stopped and I said, now what?
Yeah. No, that's great, man. And, I know a lot of guys who had the kind of the upper echelon admin jobs in law enforcement that retired. And then it's inevitable. The phone's going to ring, at least for the first few years. Can you be a consultant on this? Or can you help with this transition or whatever? I mean, I imagine those are kind of nice little gigs where you're not so much commitment involved, but you get some ching on the side. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, but I haven't done much of that. I usually do it for free. Not too bright, I guess. But I actually started really young. I started really young.
Oh, didn't you say it was like the youngest? Weren't you 20, like one of the youngest ever sworn or something?
Yes, I was, and that was in 1972. That was back in the old days. But that's what really shaped me for what I was today. But I started out, they had a cadet program at the sheriff's office. So as soon as I graduated from high school, I was going to go to 2-year school, and I did go. But they had a cadet program that I checked on just to see if that's really what I wanted to do. And man, I was hooked. What is tremendous. I saw a lot of action as a cadet.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Oh yeah. And I was shocked to see how much crime was around me in my communities.
Isn't it crazy? People have no idea.
And then I see, there's real consequences and real, people and going to jail.
Yeah.
Some of the people I knew. So that really, I was really intrigued with the job, and it was pretty scary, really, because, you're walking into a whole new environment that you don't know anything about. And I spent a lot of time there on free time, and finally the sheriff, he noticed me, and he liked people. He was doing it for future officers, but
yeah, dedicated.
He started paying me. Well, I was going to to school, and every chance I got, I'd be there. And before I knew it, and I was like 19 then, and I was answering the phone, I was dispatching, and I was doing a whole lot of
That's great.
things. And I was riding with the officers, and I wasn't supposed to engage, you know.
Yeah.
One time I had to engage. It got really bad, you know, but I learned about fear and everything else, man. I later on in life, I was teaching all that stuff, all the things that I did. And one thing I want to say, tell you is the reason I could write this book the way I did with everything in there was because I kept records for 5 decades. And not so much at the first, but before the 70s was over, I was keeping all kinds of, you know, you have to document everything. And I just shot through the ranks. I was the top sergeant at age 24.
Wow,
And,
that's young.
Oh, I was doing murder cases, and I loved it. It's just such a reward to solve burglaries and everything. I didn't get married. I was working around the clock all the time, and I was having fun, really.
Yeah.
I'm positive thinker, but I learned real quickly about, you know, there's a certain percentage of evil people out there based on their actions, what they do to other people. And now it's you see it every day now. And, you know, you had to find yourself, you know, even though when you get a bad pen on you, you're really a leader, and you need to know that. You need to lead by example and honest ethic, character, and everything else. And I'm a stickler on that. And, you know, and when I was younger, I made my mistakes. You know, you make a decision too fast, or you didn't listen enough to really get the whole story. I worked all through that, and I got stronger and better. And the one thing that really got me the most confidence to begin with is I was an athlete. I was a pretty good athlete, and they were training. I was 6'2", and I only weighed like 160. I looked like a
beanpole.
Right, I was like a paper boy with a gun, you know. so anyway, but I worked out in high school, just couldn't even have me on weight gain. I couldn't gain weight. But when I became a cadet, I started pumping weight, and I've been doing it. I work out 3-4 times a week still for 5 decades. So I gained 50 pounds in like 4.5 years of good weight, you know.
Yeah, that's nice.
So that gave me a lot of confidence. And when you're really in shape and you look big and good, people are lack to prey on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got officer presence. It's a big part of it.
I think that did you not work in a rural area in Massachusetts?
I do now. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, this is a rural area that I was working in, 900 square miles, 21 townships and villages and 1 city. And we had single patrols. I mean, our radio system, we had dead spots in the county at that time. Not anymore, but you're on your own. Yeah. You had to learn to survive. And every scrape you had, every time you had whatever, you had to face it, you know, and you go through. In those days, you didn't whine. You sucked it up, you know. They give you a gun and send you out there, do your job. But I'll tell you, I worked with people that I just will never forget. And I dedicated my book to my coworkers and so forth, and everything that we went through. We were underpaid, and we really were respected in our county. But, you know, you really had to earn your money. I mean, you could call for backup, and it's going to be 20, 30 minutes before anybody gets there. So you had to learn to survive, and you had to get past the fear. If you can't get past that fear, you're not going to make it.
Yeah,
you know,
I remember that in taser training. They showed a county sheriff out in middle of nowhere had a guy hooked up to taser for like a half an hour. And he said, don't move, help's coming. And every time the guy moved, he'd shock him, you know, but he's like, this thing's going to run out of charges soon. I need these guys to get here, because the guy was huge, you know? Yeah. But it held him down.
You know, as time goes on, you really learn verbally to de-escalate things. You really can, based on a whole lot of experience and how things go. And, you know, even to this day, I'm scanning everything. I don't know if you're like that. You can't sit in a restaurant. I never sit with my back in a restaurant or scan everything. Yeah. My wife doesn't even know that. It's just normal. And as I retired, I wonder, geez, I never looked at myself as having PTSD, but I still do all that. I mean, there's no question.
Yeah, I was raised by a police officer, and my dad was this. I mean, anywhere he went around where he worked, he'd be like,
Oh yeah,
scumbag,
yeah.
let's go this way, loser. You know,
Yeah,
what? And he was always, you know, you kind of have to be. And it's, you know, as a man too, I think it comes naturally, you know, just to like, especially when you're out with your family. I'm always looking, you know, I'm not over the top, but I'm always packing and I'm always looking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, same here. I have to look out for my wife. We could have an Indian attack. She wouldn't know it until an arrow hit her in the head. I tell you, I worry about her, you know, all the time. But nevertheless, I worked everything out in my head. But I don't know about you. I had a few times in my career I had police leave me at calls. They probably should have stayed because I just don't do that. I'm in it for whatever. I'm not going to leave anybody. I never have, and I've always been lucky.
Yeah.
I've had plenty of times it could have ended really bad, but I've always been lucky. You wouldn't know what to look at me sometimes. I go home, but they went to jail. Sometimes that's the best part, you know. But nevertheless, I started at a young age, and I know one of your questions was, what was the first hot call? But I had a lot of them when I was a cadet, and
yeah, go into one of those. What is the first time you like had like your adrenaline dropped? Like you were like, whoa.
Well, I felt that way sometimes when I was with a cadet, but I can tell you that, yes, you've got to, one call that comes to line, you know, when it's not the right, when you get a new officer, you shouldn't put them on the midnight shift, but I don't know why they did that, but they did. And we had a big bar thing on Friday, Saturday nights where we have fights, and then they go to restaurants, and next thing you know, the Donnybrook breaking out and all that. And I was just got off field training. I got sent to this one restaurant that's full of, you know, the bar crowds are in there, and the whole place was going at it. I mean, so here I go, and I had a backup that came in from the sheriff's office. It wasn't that far from our headquarters. He drove right by, didn't stop.
What?
He saw what you can see in the windows what's going on. I'm out of the car, starting to go in. I'm thinking he's behind me. He drove right by, kept going.
Nice guy.
So I walked in there, and fortunately, I knew a lot of the people that were in there. But it was really sure. I thought I was going to get my rear end kicked good, but I stayed. I went in there, and I tried to break it up, and you know, everybody stopped doing what they were doing and all that stuff, and I was in. I knew that I thought I was going to get my ass kicked in there, honestly. Yeah. But anyway, it didn't. And then I thought, and I'm still skinny there. I wasn't big yet.
Yeah.
And the whole thing about it is, I says I couldn't figure out why that's all stopped. And I turned around, and one of the city that was right on the outside the border of the city of Norwich, and they came to back me up, and they don't usually come out of the city. And the one guy that did, I was looking for, he was huge. This guy was probably 240. He looked like a mountain. They stopped, but he followed me in. So, but that's how it started. But that scared me. I mean, and you know, one scrape like that and another scrape, you learn and you get better. But I have a conscience. I'll tell you right now. You could relate to this. When you're busy working, you have all these calls, then you go to bed, you lay there thinking about everything you did for that day, and you wonder if you made the right choice on that. And if something was bothering me, that meant I need to fix something or think of something or learn for something. And that's what I did. And over time, I slowed down. I didn't jump for conclusions. If I got it, I was in shape enough. If I had to fight, I would fight. But I try to talk them out of it. And many times, if you ask enough questions, it may change the whole idea of what you think is really going on there. And that's what you have to do. And as you get older and you get better and more, and we trained all the time anyway, and we always do in this kind of business. But it got to the point where about 5 years, I woke up and I said, I could handle anything. I already had murder cases, and I'm always running into things that are big deals and get recognized and all that stuff for it. But it just defined me, how I did. And I thought I knew a lot until I went to Florida. Right. Welcome to I didn't know they were having a war down there in Dade County, but that's exactly what it was. I went down there because I went on vacation once, and I wanted to get out of the winters too. I was already established.
I hear you, brother. I'm living in it.
Yeah. And are you in Florida?
No, Massachusetts.
Oh,
I'm living in the
oh,
winter.
yeah. Oh, yes. Well, one of the worst winters you've had this year. Fortunately, I bought a place in Florida 10 years ago, so I come here in the winter, but I have a place in upstate New York where I live, which is very nice.
Good for
on a
summers.
lake. But yeah, you're right, it is. But I can tell you that as time went on, I just matured quite a bit and was lucky to survive. The scariest job I had was Miccosukee in that Southwest Dade area. And the Everglades was really crazy. I will tell you, I would get into that whenever. But as far as my cases go, I've had a lot of scary cases, but they always seem to end up in my favor, right? At least I go home anyway, you know?
Right. Did you, what would you consider your like strangest or most bizarre call or case you had?
I have so many, but I'm going to give you one that I thought was really bizarre to this day. When I went to Miami, I was culture shock. I'm dealing with all these, first of all, the city of Miami is like 60% Cuban and everything's Spanish and it's all different culture. I like food, any kind of food. I don't care.
Yeah,
So I
Cuban
was
food is
having
good.
fun. Oh yeah. I like other cultures. But I treat everybody with respect until they give me a reason not to. And if they don't, that works for me. And I talk to people. I got a big sense of humor. I'm a real ball buster, really. And I use that many times to de-escalate things. And it has worked for me. And for a long time, I use that. But sometimes nothing's going to work. So if you don't, and even when you're younger, you want to talk about it. You don't want to fight. You know darn well you have to arrest somebody, and
Right.
you're trying to talk your way out of it. It just makes it worse. And next thing you know, you just got to go in and get it over with.
Right.
And they usually hesitate. And there's difference between resisting and not wanting to go to jail. I mean, if somebody's going to all fight, that's real resisting. But
I always like it when they're really drunk as well. That always helps. You're nice and sober and they're hammered. It's like, all right, this is much better.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're right. Then after midnight, the rules change. If you're really outnumbered, if you get the first one, I've never lost a fight when I got the first one in. You know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, we have a lot in common. You can understand what I'm saying anyway. So
absolutely. So what was the strange or bizarre one?
Well, in the Everglades, started that. I'll finish that one now. But, down there, it was culture shock. Not only with the Miccosukee Indians, they never surrendered. They're in the Everglades because that's where they ran away from the United States Cavalry that pushed them down into Florida. And, you've heard of Seminoles, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Well, the Seminoles and the Miccosukees come from the same tribe. It's a Creek tribe. It was up. They were pushed up. They were way up north, but they pushed them down from Carolinas in there. And the Miccosukees, they retreated. They have movies about the Miccosukees, and they had a chief by the name of Osceola. They fought the cavalry guerrilla style. That's the first time cavalry ever saw that. But they wiped out most of the tribe, the cavalry did, because they had guns. But they've lived in that Everglades since then. And that was a real challenge for me. So I had to work with the culture, and I got accepted by the Miccosukee tribe. That was unusual for them. We had jurisdiction. We had federal, state, tribal jurisdiction, and we had credentials from Miami-Dade because they needed our help out there. And so the drugs were coming in the 80s there. It was crazy. They were coming in airplanes. They were dropping them in the Everglades. And the Coast Guard was getting most of the seizures. And we had helicopters over us more than that. And they were chasing airplanes in, and we had airboats and everything. We would go into the Everglades, and they would guide us by the helicopters. We had somebody up there too, and they were Vietnam helicopters. They were crazy, man.
Oh, like Hueys?
Oh man, these guys were crazy.
Nice.
But they were good at what they did. But anyway, we got a call, which it's real dangerous. Most of these people are armed, and we worked a lot with DEA because
I bet
that that Alcatraz that's out there in the Everglades, that they have the immigrant jail now out there for federal immigrants.
Alcatraz, isn't that California?
Well, no, this is what Trump called it. There's a prison right now on Tamiami Trail. That's 41. That's where I worked. And that's US 41. The Tamiami Trail goes all the way across the state from Miami over to Fort Myers and Punta Gorda and all that stuff. But nevertheless, that runway that's out in the Everglades there, that was built by Miami International Airport before I went there. But in the 80s, that was used for practice flying. But there was a lot of planes landing there with drugs on that airfield. It's as big as the one in Miami International Airport. And that's where that immigrant prison is right now, that it's on TV right now all the time. So we had instructions that there's some activity on one of the hammocks out there. That's the old Indian camp. It's above the water, and they would light up fires so the airplanes knew where to drop the drugs. So we got 2 airboats. We had 4 of us out there, and it was getting dark. Anyway, you got to take your time. You got watch out for stumps and stuff in here. So we weren't going real fast, but we're heading toward that hammock, and they're saying that they're seeing through thermal, they're seeing 4 individuals on the island on that hammock, and they're armed with long guns.
Oh, geez.
Oh, yeah. So
is this the place here?
The Everglades?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
Everglades.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, that's it.
Just show everybody.
We used to back up the DEA in there when they'd be in there already with automatic gunfire. Because they would have intel. They'd have intel planes landing, and since we were federal and out there, they would call us usually at the last minute, and we had access to automatic weapons as well, so we would garb up and everything, go out there, and twice I went out there to back them up and did so, and you could hear automatic gunfire. And the planes, a lot of them, there's people there to get the drugs, and the planes were supposed to take off again, but they ended up they actually shot and killed the pilot, tried to take off again, and they had a shootout with the people that were on the ground. And most of them, they didn't hit anybody, but there was a lot of, that was going on all the time. But out in that same area, we were heading out to this, and we used Indians for our guides as well until we got used to it. But we were on our way out there, so we were tense. I mean, think about it. Already got the information, they're armed and so forth. There's no question about it, it's drugs. I mean, and there's no, so we were armed pretty good, and we had night vision and everything else. We're going out there, and we got on there, and just next thing you know, I could hear them taking off in an airboat before we got there. So we got up on the hammock, so forth, and the helicopter was chasing them and all that. They picked them up later on, but what I found on that got my attention. That was not a drug thing. That was black magic voodoo stuff that was going on there.
Really?
There was a huge kettle. I got a picture in my book, but I don't have one to show you, but there's a huge kettle. And I did hear from when we did training going from New York to Florida, they talked about all the black magic and stuff that's in this ceremony, the rituals that go on in South Florida. And I know they were just shooting chickens all the time. You'd be driving along and seeing a dead chicken on the side of the road. And that's what that's all about.
Yeah.
So I knew it existed. They said, but if you ever run into anything at all that you can see that's got anything that resembles a human body, that's a problem. If some would get up. So nevertheless, it was a huge kettle. It had a skull on there, but it's not real. It's not real. But the kettle's full of blood, because there's always a sacrifice when they do this stuff. There was all these names that was in that kettle. They had things of snakes, and they had a black head with horns on it. They had snakes. They had all this stuff.
Like a human head?
Oh, yeah. Oh, but it was plastic.
Oh, okay. I was like, whoa.
So this is an Afro-Cuban religion. Or it's not religion. It's a cult.
Right.
And what they do, those names that were on that paper that was in that, and there's a whole lot of stuff that was more. There was an expert that we called out there. His name was Dr. Wells, he was also a medical examiner. He specialized and wrote a book on all this stuff. But this was what they call seven African powers, and whenever you find stuff like plastic skulls, horns, that gives them power in spirit, and they go through this whole ritual where they will use this to get even with all these people in this list. And sometimes they'll go kill them, but they believe that whatever they're going to do, it's almost like voodoo, or when they put pins and stuff in, and they believe
like a
in
hex
this
or
stuff.
something.
Oh yeah. And this was all. In fact, I got hexed by a Haitian one time, and he ended up putting a chicken leg hanging on my door where I lived, because Haitians were living there, and you got upset with me. I couldn't figure out why this chicken leg was hanging off the front of my door, and then one of the neighbors who I got along with, he told me what it was, but I don't know. And that's what. And I looked up before I had his podcast to see if that was still prevalent in Miami. It's prevalent right now. All this stuff is going on right now in Miami.
Yeah, I've heard other Florida cops have come on and have had stories of voodoo before down there. Totally.
Yeah, that was one, but another one I'll share with you real quick. It's out there. See, when I first went out there, I'm a country boy, and I went out there at the Everglades. Even that's a country. That's more evil than anything else. It's got alligators everywhere, and you get trained for them. And I wrestle alligators. That's in the book too, because the Indians wrestle for a living. So I got really good with the Indians, and they kept saying, "I bet you don't dare to do this." So I started wrestling the alligators but it was stupid. I look back at that. I said, I don't think I would do that anymore. But
no, sir.
But there's you had to capture alligators. The Indians would do it. They would help us capture them, or fishing game. Florida fishing game. They would actually capture them as well, because during mating season they're on the run and they're really aggressive. But they're I don't miss the alligators and all that stuff. But I'm telling you, every night when it was dark, every square inch of the ground out there is moving. We had special boots under our uniforms because of snakes. Yeah. And I've had snakes pop me on my boot a few times, but you can't get bit. But still, it's surprising what you get used to, really. And then not only that, what I didn't like about working out there, I liked all the people that was there, and I liked the reservation people, but they had their problems with alcohol and drugs, and then you'd have to fight them every time, then they're sorry the next day. But out there, you didn't have enough backup. Miami-Dade's not out there. The helicopters, believe it or not, they had 2 helicopters, Miami-Dade. They came out more than once to back me up and hover right over the top of me when I needed help out there. But unfortunately, made through all this stuff. But I got a call at 3 o'clock in the morning out there, and this is going west toward the other coast. This isn't going, I'm in the Everglades anyway, 20 miles of Everglades. There's things on places, the tourist places, but you're by yourself. And that's it's only it's 2 lanes, but it's going both ways. And that's the main ride to get from Miami over to the other coast. So you got traffic all night long from people from other countries, tourists, everything, drug dealers. We meet so many drug arrests stopping vehicles and stuff out there. It's not even funny. Kilo. But the point is, this was kind of a weird one. The traffic was backed up in 2 ways. And I'm going out there and I can see it. And I see this fire right across the entire road. The whole road burning, both lanes. I said, what the heck? So the Tamiami Canal runs parallel with that whole highway across the state. Well, fortunately, I can get off the road because cars are backed up. People are freaking out. And I get up to the point where there's a guy standing in the middle of the road. I see him through the fire. And he's got a Bible in one hand and a bat in the other. And he was out of it. So I get out of my car and I'm trying to digest what's going on here. These people were scared to death, and they were from different countries, and they didn't know what to think. But boy, they were glad to see me. So I'm trying to approach this guy, and every time I get close, he swings that bat. I wasn't real intimidated by him, but he was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely crazy. And I'm looking at what's burning on the road. He had gasoline. He had all these clothes in his car. He spread them out and he put gasoline on them and lit them up. And he'd been there for at least 20 minutes. And I'll tell you, it got to the point in between him swinging, I knocked him right out of his shoes. And that was the end of the fight. And he was just crazy as a hoot owl. And I was talking, going back and forth, because once I really got his attention, he didn't want any more problems with me. But I took him to jail, but he really needed to go. Oh yeah, and he was talking all kinds of crap and stuff like that.
Was he trying to get the demons out of the Everglades?
Yeah,
get the voodoo out.
Yeah, I mean, it's no religion I ever seen before, but I'll tell you. So he was from South America.
Wow,
that's where he was from. Yeah, but that was pretty bizarre, you know.
Yeah, it's really bizarre.
You know, I'll tell you one other thing, because I got really close. There was 2 medicine men in this reservation, and I got to be, they're really respected. They actually make medicine out of plants, and some of it's legitimate.
Yeah,
but
sure.
they were so, you know, because the Indians they're clannish. They have clans are families, you know, and they stick together against each other. But there was no more medicine men on the whole East Coast, and these 2 older Indians, they were students of the last medicine man in the whole East Coast of the United States. So they were important people. So I made a point to be friends with them, and they would come to me. They didn't go to they would come to me if they have an issue, and I would come to them when I had an issue, and they would really take care of it, the whole tribe. So I was really, really good. But they with the Miccosukee and so forth, they were just lost people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I used to, I didn't know, at first, you know, the language, they speak Miccosukee. I mean, that's the whole thing. They speak Miccosukee.
Them alone.
And I was using interpreters so I could talk to them and so some of the older ones. And it got to the point where they realized that, because it's a whole different culture. They don't talk much. They only a wife and a husband could pass each other and not say a word. So they got used to me, and I learned some of the language and so forth. And I really got in with the kids. I got in with everything. They would invite me to their rituals that they wouldn't let anybody else to, because they trusted me, and I had to earn that trust through.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
And yeah, we had a bear that attacked the Indian village one day that almost hurt children. The bear was after a domestic pig, right?
Yep.
So long story short, the bear was after a domestic pig, and that's not unusual during certain times of the year. They're a pretty good sized bear, and the Indians they've lived there all that time. Their bears were. They were respected bears because they've killed Indians before, and so anybody that kills a bear is a warrior. That's how they look at this. But anyway, this bear, once they find food, they're going to come back. So the tribe called the fire fishing game to come out there, and they came out. I was already working 12 hours. I'm coming back from jail, and I thought that was all taken care of. So the fishing game came. They wanted them to track the bear down, because he's going to come back. And they said, "Oh, he won't come back. He won't come back." They left, and they shouldn't have left, but they did. Well, the bear came back and attacked again, hurt a child.
Wow.
And we had a lieutenant that was Miccosukee. He calls me down there because I get along with everybody, you know, but I was tired, like 12 hours. So anyway, we ended up with the medicine men. We're tracking that bear through the Everglades.
Oh man.
And I'm saying, and I had another officer that was he was from Texas. His name was Jim Stevens. And he was like, you know, mosquitoes will make you look like a Nestle's Crunch Bar boy if you don't have something on your skin.
Oh, they get me bad, believe me.
Oh yeah. They're like hummingbirds, you know.
I'm the whitest white boy, Tom. Oh
yeah, you're a target. So nevertheless, they were telling all these stories about the bear, and they're never going to give it up and all that. And one Indian had a 10-gauge shotgun.
Woo, big bore.
And it had to be it almost looked like a 10-foot barrel. I said, where did you get, you're going to need a tripod to shoot that damn thing, you know? But anyway, and they said, well, sometimes the bears will come up behind you. And he came back and got the pig. He took the pig with him, went across the canal, and he's in the Everglades. And then while we were there, some of the Indians armed themselves and went to the other side and started shooting in our direction. And the shots were hitting around us. And I'm saying, what in the hell is this? And the only trees you can hide behind is little skinny trees that, I mean, it's ridiculous. And Jim and I and the medicine men are yelling in Miccosukee, and there were Indians shooting our way. You know, I think they got drinking or something. I don't know. Nobody got hit. It was a miracle.
Oh my gosh.
Well, anyway, I told Jim Stevens, I said, I'd shoot you if I could get out of here. So, but anyway, went a little further, and I heard a noise behind us. I'll be darned if one of the medicine men were right. That bear dropped that pig and went around us, and he was on an all-out attack. I turned around, here comes this bear, and he stands right up, he's coming right at me, and I shot him, you know? And I didn't even aim. I just lifted it up and shot, and it killed him. So then, you know, back in those days, the bears were protected species, you know? You're not supposed to shoot them. But the point is that's a legitimate concern, but that wasn't a problem. But the Fish and Game, what they did, headlines in the Miami Herald, they found out somebody killed a bear. I know that, and they're trying to cover their trail because they didn't do anything.
They didn't take care of it.
Indian Nation really has power when it comes to politics because they've been so mistreated. The government doesn't come after them about anything. But nevertheless, the headlines was killer of bear on Miccosukee Reservation hunted. That was me, you know what I mean? So my boss was in Washington, so I called him and said, well, we may have a little problem here. I'm not sure, but I wasn't really worried about it. But you know, the Indians, and it all worked out. And some of the Fish and Game got punished for that. But the Indians, they took that bear and used they don't waste anything. And they presented me as a warrior. It's, if you kill a bear, you're a warrior. I felt like I shot Yogi, you know what I mean?
I know, yeah.
I mean, who feels good about that? I didn't feel good about this. But they took the bear, and whenever they kill anything, they'll use everything with that animal. That's how they are.
Yeah.
Well, they took a claw and made this gorgeous jewelry, you know, big claw. It had gold on it, had stone quartz and stuff on it. Really nice.
That's nice.
And they presented that to me at a ceremony for.
Yes, that's awesome. Did they give you a moniker like the Great White Bear or something, or?
No, a warrior. I'm a warrior.
All
and
right.
what made me laugh?
No Indian name though.
Oh no, well, let me tell you, the Indian names you ever call me. See, you understand, they don't have any swearing words. There's no swearing words. Well, I got so well in, I make fun of the kids. And they could speak English somewhat, and some of them can't, but we had a secretary that was Indian that was, I became really good friends with. Still to this day, we're great friends. Anyway, two of her kids, they would follow me around because most officers just don't have nothing to do with them. I didn't understand that, but nevertheless, I did. So one day I was busting on him, and I told the mother to tell him exactly what I say. And I says, you know, you think Margaret's your mother, but she's not. They found you out on the Indian camp out there, and you were laying next to the back end of an alligator when you were born. So they all looked at each other and laughed. That's the first time I saw these kids laugh. There were 6 of them, and they ran away. Within 10 minutes, they come back, and they started talking Miccosukee. They were talking Miccosukee, you know.
Yeah.
And one of them, they were calling me a name. They said, Shubashikat. I didn't know what that means, you know. So I go, oh, that means same to you. They laughed about that. And then another one called me Super Louie. And I went, oh, and that meant same to you, because I know we're just messing around. They don't. So I asked, Margaret wouldn't tell me what they said. And I said, Margaret, what's Shubashikat? And she says, well, and she was all red, big pig. So anyway, and I says, well, I shouldn't say this prophet, but says, what was the other one? Hog balls. But you know, they whatever words they have, they could say. It's a different culture. I freaking cracked up. I really did. And you know,
That's funny.
and
Yeah,
I I had a great rapport with them. I really did. And I really miss that, So,
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I came back years later, after I was sheriff, I came back because they were lobbying me for 2 years to come back and be a police chief, because they liked what I did all through the 80s. That's what that was all about. So that was the best thing they could do for me was if I could gain their trust. That was the most important thing to me. And they honored me at a yearly festival and gave me a plaque that meant more to me than most of the plaques I ever got, because I actually gained the respect and the trust for what I did on that reservation. That was the toughest job I ever had. You have no idea. I was in the canal, had a car go off. I had a car. I was driving on 41. A car goes off. It was a van that went off into the canal. It was getting dark right then. That was when I first got down there. I got cut loose. And I called Miami-Dade to come out, respond, but they're not going to be here. So anyway, I ended up having to take and there's people stopping and everything else, but it got black. So I took my gun belt up, put it in my trunk and all that, my boots, and I'm looking in there. I could see the taillights. No, I figured bubbles coming up, but nobody's coming up.
Yeah.
So I ended up diving in, I got down to the back of the back of the van. And I said, geez, I'm a pretty good swimmer, actually. And I was running out of air, so I come back up. I said, what? I must be talking to myself that, hey, I thought maybe I was getting too excited or something. Yeah. But anyway, I went back in. It was locked. And then the third time I went in, I noticed I took my streamlight this time, and I was going, because I could see the taillights. But I saw red eyes around the outside of the canal. It's only probably 30 feet wide or whatever. Well, I just went back in anyway. I got down to all 3 doors. I couldn't open it up. I was screwed. I know that. Came back up. There were alligators, by the way. That's what there was. Alligators
what are you
in there.
Jumping in fresh water in Florida? You must be crazy.
Oh, well, to be honest with you, somebody had to do something, and there was people there. Nobody else tried, and
yeah, you had to.
It was kind of embarrassing when the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue is the best I've ever seen. They're nationally recognized. Do
they have like a gator guy when they go in the water? Do they have like a gator fender offer, or somebody watching for gators, or somebody armed with,
Well, I'll tell you what, they went right in. The divers went right in. They didn't even use air. They snorkeled. That's how much air they have. They were down there, I swear to God, 5 minutes. They came up with a body. They had to do one at a time. There's 2 bodies.
Anybody live?
No, they drowned. And they had 2 kilos of cocaine in there. They were trying that out. And we back checked where they come from. They were at a bar down the road. They were at a bar and they were drunk. So they were so drunk, and they were trying that out at the same time. They drove right off the highway and then come to find out that was 25 feet deep, 25, 30 feet deep. That's why I was having problems with it.
Too bad you didn't have that information before you jumped in. Maybe it doesn't matter about these guys.
You know what? I lost respect for them because I knew afterwards that's what they were. But I'd already been seeing the Indians wrestle the alligators all the time. Once in a while, they're crazy. I said, you're crazy doing that. So finally, after that, I actually was wrestling the alligators myself. But you could get hurt. There's no question.
Yeah, I imagine wrestling an alligator.
but I'll tell you, that night I'm laying in bed, saying, "What the hell was I doing?" I mean, that's stupid. But what are you going to do? Somebody's got to do something.
Yeah,
and that's what I do. And that's what I've always done.
No, you did the right thing. Absolutely. Just I would have been. Good thing I was in water, so no one could see the urine coming out of my body if I had to do it. Tom, can you tell us about your most intense or terrifying call?
Well, down there was a lot of them there. But when I was really making my way and I was on fire in New York, and I was a sergeant, they had this Grand Prix motocross race that was in the west side of our county. It's still there today. It was just getting started. It started like 69, and this was 70. And when they had that, they would hire the sheriff's office, and we didn't have enough officers to police that. But what we did, we'd go over there and we would set up, and sometimes we'd have part-time people there or whatever. Well, this event got bigger and bigger and bigger. It got national, and then it didn't take very long. They had 25,000 people that was camping out there. And it was an old farm out in the west part of our county, 55 acres, and they built this ungodly motocross tracks, and it was popular. And it still is today. ESPN, everything's there, but they pay with cash and all that stuff. And the races were fine. I mean, that wasn't a problem. Now they really are strict about everything. But we had motorcycle gangs coming there from all over the country that was going up on the upper deck, all this acres and acres, and there's no electric up there or hookups or anything. It was just camps, and they would have bathhouses periodically out. And every year, it got worse and worse and worse. There was one year, and I was there. We were all seasoned cops. I mean, but one of the bad things that we would do, we were underpaid anyway, so we would work. We would be there 2 solid days without going home, and that's stupid if you have a lot of problems because you're up too much.
Yeah.
And every year. It would start. Every year it stopped. And this year, that one year, it was so bad, we were just about wiped out. There's 20-some thousand people that's camping out. Most of them are good, you know. Next thing you know, somebody's shooting it at somebody else. They have signs on top of their vans and all that stuff. We would have to sneak up there and make an arrest and get into it. It was awful. It was really scary. It was scary. And the thing is, like the second day is even worse. They would start this, it would turn into a riot. I didn't know what a riot was yet, but I could tell you after going to my first riot when I was down in Miami for a backup, that riot was nothing compared to this motocross. And what would happen, they'd get about 2,000 people that would accumulate eventually. And how it starts, you got little roads to go up there to the campsites, and they would have signs, show your boobs, show your boobs. Next thing you know, women do that. That's what they're doing.
I know. They wouldn't do it if it didn't work, right?
Yeah, 100 people, 200 people in the day, it just goes on. They're drinking, drugs, and everything else. It just, next thing you know, you got 2,500 people that are getting bored, and they're actually coming. And that was during, the days with the protesting and stuff going on, different kind. And you'd have rabble rousers. One guy I remember had a helmet with these helmets big horns coming out of it. And he was one of the ones escalating all this stuff. These people were they were burning the buildings down. They were shooting commercial fireworks at us and everybody else. It was not fun. I'll tell you right now. And then.
And was this like an overtime detail for you, or were you on shift for this?
Well, we volunteered, but we were paid overtime wages to do it.
Okay.
And then we waited too long to call. We finally, I mean, we got a lot of people that got hurt, and I was bruised up just from getting hit with rockets. I mean, it was stupid.
Jeez.
I'll tell you something. I had to sneak. A guy was shooting a gun. I had to sneak up through there in the dark, and finally found his camp where he's at. He was shooting, and I freaking hit him with a billy club, knocked him colder than mackerel. And actually he was alive, but I took his gun, and I had to get out of there. You get surrounded. So I took his gun and just ran down the hill to get that. He came down the next day with a lump that's out of the side of his head, and he says somebody stole his gun, and I arrested him. Right? But that's what it was like.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, no, when I went up
what
there.
year is this, Tom? Was this going on?
Oh, this is 77, 78.
Oh, yeah. The good old days.
It was tough, man. It was tough. And then we finally got smart. We started doing, Watkins Glens over in Steuben County, when they have the races over there, famous races. They would have all the counties. They would hire people from all the counties around them.
Yeah.
We started doing that. And then the next year, we had undercover cops and everything in the crowd. And then we had judges right on the scene. It got rough, but we were arresting a lot of people. I mean, a lot. And then we had to go into the villages and save the people in the villages, because they're going crazy in the villages. It's like those 60 movies where they take over the villages. It was crazy.
Is this mostly biker gangs?
Well, there's a lot of biker gangs, but there's a lot of everything.
So there's just fans also, just
oh yeah,
a mixture.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a lot of it's just crazy. It's like no rules. When the crowd gets like that, there's no rules. and things can get, and I'll tell you, you start thinking about shooting people. It's that bad. And I would talk, I'm going up and down the ranks, because they came to a place where they came over the fence, and there's hundreds of thousands of dollars of cash in this one office, right? They have a guard dog in there. That guard dog's not going to help anything. And we could not let them get to that building. They got really close to having to kill somebody. And, you know.
I don't think I'd take that overtime gig again. Like that was good.
No, I didn't. I went to Miami. But nevertheless, that really stayed with me.
Yeah,
and then,
I bet.
And I'll tell you this, when I came back, I was elected sheriff in 1992. When I took over my office, I retrained the entire agency. I mean, really brought them up, all accredited. Everything of our policies ended up being accredited. And the first lawsuit that I got, that I inherited from the last administration, was a lawsuit that happened at the motocross over there with that. So a fellow by the name of Ward Robinson, who come from a great family over there, he started that whole business. I mean, this was huge now. So it came around. He got a hold of the agency. He says, look, we're going to have another year. We want you over here. And I says, well, I'll be glad to do it. Not a problem. But I'm going to need a certificate of insurance. He went crazy. He says, I'm not going to get it. I says, look, I got a lawsuit here that was caused because most of the stuff was his fault of how he was handling it and so forth and blah, blah, blah.
And does he have to pay the overtime for the police, or were you guys just doing it for him?
Oh, no, he pays. He would pay to our agency.
Okay, so he'd pay for the extra.
We had to go that way. We have unions and stuff like that. But the point is, we got our money. We got good money plus. But the point is, if we get hurt, the county has to pay for that. See, if you think about it in that way, so a certificate of insurance would cover all that and lawsuits.
He doesn't want to spend the money, obviously.
No, he didn't. He raised a lot of hell with me as sheriff. He says, no other sheriff's ever done that to me. I'm no longer coming back to your county. So he is in the county. But that went though. They hired the New York State correction officers that year, and they found out real quick that the correction officers can't make arrests. So we ended up getting involved anyway to help them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This was in New York then.
New York State, Chenango County. And it's called the Unadilla Motocross. It's famous now. Yeah. I mean, it's all good stuff. The racing.
Yeah. Now there's money in it. There's all kinds of. I mean, they're squared away now. But you were back in the birth of it, and they were. It was like the Woodstock of motocross. Sounds like.
Oh yeah.
Mud fields and that's crazy. Tom, can you think of a positive or heartwarming situation you dealt with in your years?
Many. One of the things that I've learned, even when I was a kid, my mom and dad, we had six kids in our family, but we didn't have a lot of money. We all had pretty good life. We had good family, close family, and so forth, and strict. But one of the things we were brought up to be polite, especially older people. So kids, a lot of kids aren't like that, but I did. So I found.
Biggest compliment my wife and I get is when someone tells us how polite our kids are. I could never be prouder.
Right. Me too. And the thing is, I saw that how, if you're polite, even people that are mean to kids, and you're polite to them, yes, sir, no, sir, they change their whole thing. They talk to you. So I learned that in a young age, really. So I like helping people. I do. I'm a positive thinker. I like helping people. I can talk to anybody, any people, almost about anything, so forth. And as in this business, when you use and you get good interviews and so forth, all the investigation stuff, it's a good tool to have. So what I do, I go on my way to talk to people, and if I can help them anyway, if I can help somebody anyway, I do that. And every time I help somebody, whether it's helping somebody or even right now load up their groceries because they're old, and sometimes I'll say to my wife, I feel so sorry for that older lady. She can't even lift this or that. And my wife would say, she's your age, Tom. I said, oh,
she feels sorry for you, Tom.
Yeah. But you forget how old you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
But nevertheless, I've always been that way. So that's been an easy route for me. So I couldn't even get through the stores. People would come and ask me questions, or I greeted very well. And I always liked that. But to be honest, I'd get out of my car and talk to people and help them, because I'd always get a complaint or something, and people like that. And once you get known like that, I mean, you get respect and so forth. So I had I passed this all on to my all staff, and we were all in. They would stop at these villages, get out, and they would talk to people, and we really had respect, and we took care of business. So to answer your question, we had a poor county, and I did a lot of stuff for the kids and so forth. And I ended up starting a youth camp in 1996. This was when I was sheriff. It was a full-blown residential youth camp. I partnered with YMCA. They weren't using their waterfront camp for that, so we did. And some of their day kids would come up there, and they benefited. So I served as on the committee for the New York State Sheriff's Association camp, and I was well versed in camps anyway and stuff. But I started a full agenda for 9 to 12-year-old kids, boys and girls, and in my county. And then I found out some of the school districts were outside the county, so I took anybody. And we were doing 400 kids a summer in 5 weeks.
Nice.
And I had staff out, I had everything, paramedics, everything. I had K9, horseback riding. We had campfire stuff, everything. I mean, campfire activities. It was fun.
Was it like sheriff themed? Like, was it like cadet themed, or was it just for any youth?
Oh,
basically?
No, it was for vacations and learn what, they would talk to dispatchers and they would talk to, we'd have presentations, we'd have canines, we have traffic stops where canines would actually get out and tack the bad person, and all that stuff. And they were just mesmerized. And on Wednesday nights, we had a DJ come in, we had a big dance and all that stuff. I used to stop by, a friend of mine owned a pizza shop. I'd get 30 large pizzas in my car. And he used to say, boy, if you ever hit anything, it's going to look like about 14 dead bodies in here.
Yeah.
But the kids, they loved it. And my head cook, he was a Navy cook. I mean, he did all the cooking. So it was great. And I hired all these college kids and so forth. We screened everybody. We had cabin activities. We had campfire, swimming, boat, everything. I had special force cops and everything else. And the kids just emulate to the officers. It was great. And that was it was free. I raised the money.
That's great.
It didn't cost the families.
Awesome.
And you know what? The reward I got, to get back to where we're at, for years and years and years, kids would come to me and say the best vacation I ever had was at the sheriff's camp.
That's
the sheriff's
great.
camp.
Yeah.
Schools were involved. I got schools involved. They could pick the other kids and so forth. And it was fun. It was fun. And we got better and better at the agendas. And so I had military people come in there, choppers landing and so forth and everything. It was just fun.
That's cool.
And we made sure nobody got hurt there. It was good. And it actually that camp went from 96, and I left from 96 to 2009. That's the year I went back down to Miami as a police chief in my 5th term. And then what my undersheriff that worked for me, he promised me that he would always keep that camp open. I already raised enough money. I was getting money out of people would pass away and put this as part of their donations every year to the sheriff's camp.
That's
and so
great.
there's money in a protected account overseen by company and all that stuff. And there's enough money now. So when COVID hit, they had to stop the camp. And the sheriff, let's face it, sheriffs aren't, they got other things, they got everything to do besides that. But he hadn't opened it since. And I jumped him last year and said, hey, what are you going to do with this money? If you're not going to use it, I'd like to take that money and put it to another camp. I'll get somebody else or whatever. Because I raised all that money. But nevertheless, it's my understanding he's opening that camp right now this summer. So I'm hoping, yes, that's great. That is the best youth camp. It was actually acknowledged even statewide. I mean, I was proud as a peacock of that. And we had.
I'm going to call him. There should be a Tom Loughren mess hall or something. Get your name on there.
Well, the only statue I got is up at the sewer plant.
Oh, nice.
No, I'm just kidding. So, no, but I'm well received in that county. I really am. But I
That's
I,
great.
I just I will tell you something. I'm just so upset about. I spent my whole career trying to do the right things, just like you are, and I wouldn't do much different, except duck a couple of times where I should have ducked sooner, maybe. But the point is, what the government's doing to our citizens today is just I'm beside myself, and the bail reform stuff that's going on. It's not. I believe in any kind of positive reform,
Sure.
but what they've done, they've taken these bail reform states like New York, my state,
Yep.
and I worked for the governor. She was the last governor that was my boss, and Como was the one that actually appointed me, but for that commission job. But nevertheless, they give a menu to the cops now, a menu. So if they have to, they pass laws where you got to go by the laws. So if somebody robs somebody, not with a gun, but you rob of somebody, knock them down and take their wallet or whatever, they tell you, every case, just because it falls under robbery, it's still a felony. It's a robbery, but you have extenuating circumstances that deserve discretion, either to go to jail or not go to jail.
Yeah.
But they force them to write tickets, and if they do go to jail, it's just overnight, and the judge has a menu too, and takes away their discretion. They have to let them out,
That's
and then
crazy.
blink. And
I
then
mean, how many news stories do we need to see of a felon getting out and then victimizing another person within a week? Like, how many times does this have to happen?
Oh yeah, I just don't. It's just like they're un-American. I lost so much respect for many politicians that they made themselves rich. All you got to do is follow the money tree,
Yeah.
and see where they got the money, and it's just really.
And the crazy part too, Tom, go ahead and make yourself rich, but let's have some justice. Yeah. You can make yourself rich, but you got to take care of us.
Well, you got to look at where the money. Big pharmaceutical. You got Soros and all those guys.
Oh yeah, all kinds of lobbies.
Oh yeah, but it's everywhere, and all these other countries are involved. I mean, now, with the social media, you track down everything, and they are tracking it down. Yeah. But I don't see anybody going to jail.
I know. It's terrible.
Maybe you should run for president.
Yeah. No thanks. I'd have a friggin' heart attack. My wife would kill me also.
Yeah, I don't think my wife would like me getting involved in that either.
No, not at all. Tom, I am flattered though. Thank you. Tom, advice to new police officers, popular question. There's a lot of people that listen to the show and they're thinking about doing it, or maybe they're in backgrounds. I even get emails from people from like pictures of them at academy graduation because they heard you guys come on and tell your stories and they decided to do it. And hearing you guys meant so much that they'll send me a picture of them at academy graduation. So what would you tell these folks getting into the job now?
Well, I used to speak to our classes. We were graduating and so forth. As a sheriff, you've got police, correction officers, dispatchers, a lot of private backup, support staff and civil department.
Sure.
So I was director of emergency management too, by the way.
One more hat.
Yeah. You think I'm really smart, but I'm smart at hiring people. I learned quickly to put all my efforts on hiring and getting the best I can. And this is my whole philosophy. I've been this since I was young sergeant. I got criticized for being a sergeant. I learned fast. I trained all my people on my staff to do felonies. The detectives didn't like that. Next thing you know, we're kicking tail. And I support my staff. When I had rank, I would look out for all my officers. And they would produce because I would stand up for them with the sheriff and everything. And the sheriff, he respected me for that. And some of the sergeants didn't even go out. I went on the road. But the point is, what I do and how I feel, I believe in values. I look at everything values, and I look at every person that works sheriff's office. That's my best asset. All my people that's ever worked with me heard this before. That's my precious app. Each person I work with is my most precious asset. It's my job to make them the best they can at what they do. That means training and support and accountability. I'm strict. Okay. Now I had three unions. They have a right to have a hearing if I fire somebody. I fired a lot of people. They were all involved in that process too. I never had one hearing in all the years I was sheriff. Now that wouldn't happen now. Maybe that's a little luck. But what I say to my new candidates is, when you become a police officer, your life is going to change fast, and you got to learn. You got to survive, and you better be honest. You better be ethical. And you're out there to serve all those people, and don't judge them by the way they look or how they are. You're out there to serve them, and you got to learn the trade, and you got to survive, and you've got to be approachable. You got to be polite until somebody does something or says something when you're not going to be polite. But still, remember this: if you lose it, or if you abuse your badge or whatever, when you abuse somebody and yell at somebody that maybe doesn't have it coming, they're never going to forget that. And if that's somebody that lives in one of our communities who's going to tell 1 people, 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, who knows?
Sure.
And you don't need that. And not only that, if you're doing a traffic stop and you stop somebody from another state and you treat them like an idiot or a criminal when they aren't, they're going to think all the police in that state or that county are like that. And that reflects on me as a leader. And I don't like that. And you have to act professional until you have a reason not to. And I will always back you. If you cross the line criminally or ethically, you're done. They know that right up front. But I will never sell you out. I don't care. And a sheriff, I don't know if you know this or not, but elected sheriff in New York, in most states, they're the #1 law enforcement entity in the county.
Right.
It sounds great. But the point is, people think we're a sheriff's department. That, what I'm saying, sheriff's office. When we won a lawsuit in New York that showed that we're co-employers based on New York State Constitution. They have us. We're in the Constitution. Only the elected sheriff can run the jail and blah 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 blah. Now, so we went to court on that because the county was always trying to take over the sheriff's office, and the county, if you have a county exec, somebody like that, they like the power. That's attempts all the time. Well, we went to court on that in early 2000, and they lost, and they ruled that the sheriff is a co-employer with the county. So that broke up that effort. Well, it meant even more than that. I answer to the voters. I don't answer to the governor. I don't answer to the president of the United States. I don't answer to any county entity or department.
Right.
I answer. So in COVID, sheriffs became very popular. We didn't arrest people for not having their masks on. We didn't. If they have a family gathering, we didn't arrest them for any of that stuff. It's
right.
And the governor, my boss, he threatened the sheriffs. He threatened the sheriffs. He said, if you're not going to start arresting whatever, I'm going to remove you from office. He can't remove us from office.
Yeah.
He knew that. But see, that's why the sheriffs are different. Now, you can get bad and good of everything, including sheriffs. I mean, I utilize that, and I just took care of my staff in the county best I could, and I have no regrets. But as far as I like my people, and I would go around and talk to them all the time. I'd make my rounds in the jail and talk to my officers, talk to the inmates. I'd just impromptu go to and when I first started, after I got through training, I would go, as a sheriff, I would show up on armed standoffs. I would show up on homicides and stuff. I was involved in them. And I got the book, I got about 15 murder cases in there, several other major crimes and everything. But I'll tell you what, I like my staff, and I dedicated my book to all my coworkers, my staff, and what they did. And the people that didn't make it and died early, I dedicate my book for all that. And also, I was real proud. I'm not an author. I've never wrote a book before. This first book. But they say I've yet to get a bad review on this book. But I will tell you this: I was shocked to see I got this American Writers Award as a finalist at the end of 25.
That's awesome. Well, let's say the title of the book, though, When Crisis Meets Courage. That's the book.
Right. Yes. And I didn't know what it meant till my editor told me. And I was a competitor with the one that won. And the genre, or the title I call it, it was under narrative nonfiction. So all the nonfiction books in 225, I got to be a finalist with this one.
That's so cool.
Who the heck would ever believe that? I don't even believe it. And they said, we're a professional author. I says, I'm not even an author, but I'm professional at writing police reports, if that makes any difference.
Yeah. That's great. Are you going to do another one?
I don't plan on
it.
I really did it for my kids, my family, and I have 5 tubs full of all this stuff. What are they going to do when they don't want to know what that stuff's all about? So I did. And I'm glad I did, because my coworkers, I've got so many from all the sheriffs that I've worked with all these years and so forth. They all said the same thing. We didn't even know you knew how to write. So and we joke around. I mean, I got close relationships with those people.
It's great.
Sheriffs. So no,
memorializes your career too, for like you said, for your family.
Oh yeah, but I've had a great career. I have no regrets with. I'm so fortunate. I got injuries galore, but you know what? I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change anything. I would do the same thing over again.
Well, it was an absolute honor to have you on the show. Really fun stories. And everybody can get the book at Amazon. There'll be a link in the show notes. And do you want to point them any other direction besides Amazon, or just a link in the show notes is good enough?
No, that should be good enough, I think. It's on a lot of platforms, I can tell you that. But
all right. Perfect. Well, sir, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Absolutely my pleasure. Can you hang on for just like 2 minutes when I do the show outro?
Yes, I can.
All right. The great Thomas Loughren, ladies and gentlemen, over 50 years in policing, which is totally insane. Fantastic stories. Appreciate him coming on. This is a time in the show when we thank the Patreon sponsors. These are the folks that love the show so much that they went to the link in the show notes, clicked it, and they joined sergeant's level or above, and now they get a shout out by old Gingerface. Starting with lieutenants. Who I'm talking about is a great and powerful Andy Biggs. The handsome and venerable Kyle Roberts, everybody. The great Brad Thompson, Big Bear Investigations. Check him out on Instagram. Michael Roach Machines, AI Solutions. Check him out. Now to the sergeants, the handsome Lane Campbell. The great Gary Steiner. The venerable Adam Mehall. Thank you. Seth Wright, my man. Thank you. The great Lauren Stimson. Thank you, Lauren. Jason Lau, everybody. Sasha McNabb, ladies and gentlemen. Sean Clifford. Tammy Walsh, holding it down at dispatch. Thank you, Tammy. George Tessier, love you, buddy. See you at church. Dennis Carrasquillo. Dennis, thank you. Scott Young. Dan Carlson from Burley Boards, amazing woodworker. Check him out on Instagram. Doug and Kelly Newman, love you guys. Hope you're enjoying Wyoming. Raymond Arsenal, my brother. Thank you, sir. Richard Tolles, keep on trucking, brother. Stay safe out there on the roads. Elliot Sykes, everybody. Clark LaCuff. Adam McMahon, the great Adam McMahon. Thank you. Sheriff Ronald Long. Thank you, Sheriff. Zachary Pleat. Thank you, sir. The great Jason Labrie. Lisa Gano, everybody. Lisa, love you. Thank you. Sherry Finch. None other than the great Sherry Finch. Thank you. The great Eric Smith. Eric, I appreciate you. Thank you. Jackson Dalton from Black Box Safety. Check them out, Jackson. Thank you, sir. The great Brett Lee. Alex Wazik. Thank you, sir. And the great Lauren Smith. Thank you. Whew. Man, the list is long, and I appreciate that. So if you really love the show and you've enjoyed all the free content, you can go to the link and click support on Patreon. Thank you. And don't forget also to check out the Sergeant Steve YouTube channel. I love you guys, and I will see you next week.